It's time for the One Bar and Lupica Show, bringing you anything and everything Minnesota Vikings.
Welcome to professional football.
All right, welcome back to the One Bar and Lupica Show. Today, as part of Packers Week, it is Packers Week. Woo! Hell yeah! Doesn't feel like it, but it is. It makes sense. You want to get to know your opponent, not just who they are this year, but looking back over the years, you want to kind of see what that shared history is. And like it or not, there's been plenty of players who have donned both the purple and gold and that disgusting green and yellow of Green Bay. So today, to kind of just see what kind of common connections we have with the hated Packers, we're going to look at the top 5 Packers who are also Vikings and vice versa, the Vikings who are also Packers. There is one notable exception on this list who I did not want to mention because he's a real piece of shit human who was in prison. But he would have made it if he would have been a decent human, but he's not. All right, so I wish I had cool graphics that could be like number 5, but I don't, so I'm just going to do that every single time. So if it gets too annoying, probably have a lot of people leaving this video really quick, but I'm going to do it anyway. So coming in at number 5 is Dayton Jones. Dayton Jones was a first-round bust of the Green Bay Packers. This guy ended up having 10 career sacks, 87 career tackles. He played for 5 different teams. He was, he started with the Packers. Then they didn't re-sign him. Vikings did sign him the offseason of 2017, but he did not make their final roster because he sucks and he was a bust. Dayton Jones, he did hang around the league though until just about 2018, and you look him up on Pro Football Reference stats. It says he's a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know if that's true or not. So maybe he's still out there. Dayton Jones, that's a name from the past who did play briefly for both the Minnesota Vikings and a little bit longer for the Green Bay Packers. Number 4 is LaTroy Guion. Hell yeah, our old nose tackle drafted by the Vikings. He had 5 sacks and 90 tackles with his time in Minnesota. He was mostly a backup role except for his last 2 seasons. He got worked into being a starter. He was signed after Actually, I think we maybe signed him a couple years after his rookie deal. He went to Green Bay, and I remember him like talking shit about the Vikings. He did not have nice things to say, talking a lot of smack. He didn't really blow it up in Green Bay. He had 3.5 sacks for them, 83 tackles. He was solid. He was a solid player. Nothing special, but a guy you could plug in, know what you're going to get. Pretty good run stuffer. LaTroy Guion coming in number 4. Number 3, wide receiver Greg Jennings. Remember this? Jennings was an absolute stallion in Green Bay. I think he was a second-round pick of them back in, early aughts, not the aughts, the decade, whatever the hell you call it, the teens of 2000s. He was a study. Had 425 receptions for the Packers, 6,537 yards, and 64 touchdowns. Minnesota said, we got to have this guy. They signed him to a big free agent deal. And it didn't quite pan out. He had he was here for 2 years. He got 127 receptions, 1,546 yards, and 10 touchdowns. I guess he did have 10 touchdowns in those 2 years in Minnesota, but not quite the return they were hoping on that big investment they got. He ended up finishing his career out in Miami as a member of the Dolphins. Greg Jennings. Vikings shelled a lot of money for this guy and did not get a whole hell of a lot in return. Number 2, kicker Ryan Longwell. Hell yeah, this guy was a great kicker for both the Packers and the Vikings. Kicked for the Packers for 9 years, 6 in Minnesota. Career percentage of 83.2%. And let me tell you, if you wanted a kick made at the end of a game, Longwell was your man. He never missed in those situations. But Ryan Longwell, I just wish to God he would have had a chance to kick that field goal in the 2009 championship game. Keeps me up at night every night. And speaking of that game, number 1, no big surprise, number 1, quarterback Brett Favre. This is pretty obvious. Legendary quarterback. True definition of a gunslinger. This guy would throw the ball anywhere in the quadruple coverage. He didn't give a shit. He just loved playing football, loved throwing the football. He had tons of balls on this guy. He was in Green Bay for 16 years, so obviously to them, legendary player. 2 years in Minnesota, but he did bring the Vikings that close, a pube close to the Super Bowl. Again, we would have won that game if it wasn't for the cheating ass Saints for just hitting fire way late every single play, knowing that they weren't going to get flagged every time. NFL rules have changed quite a bit since that game, and my ass is still chapped over that, and I cannot watch any highlights or hear anything about the game to this very day. Brett Favre, he's a Hall of Famer, 71,838 passing yards, 508 touchdowns. And I think one thing you can say, if you're going to ever want to have a common connection with a Packers fan, I don't know why you ever would, but if you did, obviously we love Brett Favre for his time here, what he did for us that year, having those great wins against Green Bay, just classic moments in Vikings lore. And then, I'm sure the Packers love him for bringing them a Super Bowl in the 90s, whenever the hell that was, late 90s, I believe. Again, just a great player, a guy who was easy to root for just when you watch, especially when you see like the behind-the-scenes stuff or you hear what he's saying during a game, and just a fun all-around guy, fun all-around player. So that's it. Those are your top 5 fairly recent Vikings who were Packers, and Packers who were Vikings. It'll be interesting to see who crosses the line in the future, and we can maybe do this again in a couple years. But until then, guys, always keep your skull in your hole.